Let's go now to some other economic issues. We've had that surge in inflation last week. Any chance that we might get a rate cut tomorrow at the RBA meeting? I think that's shot. There's been a few new hires out there, but they're all been government, haven't they? There's been plenty of money spent by government, which is only making a bad situation worse. Joining me now to discuss this and more, Ross Greenwood, Sky News Business Editor. Not a good look, Ross, you know, when everyone's told to tighten their belts, but the only real spending we're seeing is in the public sector. And the only real place we're seeing hiring too is in the public sector.
Yeah, and that's a real issue because for a government that preaches that it's got budget discipline, there's a genuine question right now as to whether that budget discipline is real and indeed whether it's been able to actually sort of hold in regards to wages increases its own inflation forecast. And I think this is really important. So the reason we're able to see this, and the Financial Review did some great work on this today, is the annual reports for all of the departments are now starting to drop. And so you can actually get a sense of just how many people they've employed and indeed what sort of wage increases have gone through. And the most standout of these, I think at least, is the Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry. So this is an extract from last year's annual report. So just note there what it says there, 5,888 employees. So that's for the year to June last year, 2024. Let's fast forward to what just came out. 6,977 employees. So in other words, you've actually seen a jump of 1,089 people in 1 year in one department, which is an increase of 18.5%. Now, the wages there, the wages bill, is basically blown out, including super, to $707 million in the course of a year. That's up almost 20%. And that means that that wages bill increased by $115 million in just 1 year. Now, I'm certain there's a whole bunch of reasons as to why that took place, Peter, but that's just one example. As I said, it is the extreme, but it says that really in that particular case, either the Finance Minister, Katie Gallagher, or the Treasurer have really not been looking closely enough at the detail of that particular department to try and figure out why there was such a significant blowout in staff numbers and therefore wages costs.
Of course, we know this is all happening in the States too. I know in Victoria that 80% of the hires in Victoria are government employees, which is blowing out a bad budget there even worse. Let's go to that story today that the ATO's scrambling to fix this massive loophole. We know people can claim a tax deduction if they're working from home and they're an owner, but renters not in the past have been able to use this opportunity for a range of reasons. We'll talk through those in a moment. But there's been this loophole. They've worked their way into using it, and now it could cost the budget billions, Ross.
Well, of course it could. And no surprise here, it was actually an ABC Sports presenter who brought the case, which I thought was pretty interesting and curious as well, obviously. So working from home, and you sit there and look, in some ways it makes some sense. If you're earning your income from home and you're not going to the office, and remember in Victoria now they're going to mandate for public servants to be able to have a right to work from home. So if you then add on top of that all of the deductions that an individual might be able to claim for their home office. In the past, if you had a home office, it had to be related to the amount of income you earned from that office. And so therefore, you could therefore potentially be subject to capital gains tax on that portion of your home if you sell it in the future. It was never really levied, to be honest, but it was theoretically there. Now, if all of a sudden every person, every worker is going to get a payout because they do work from home, the question is, I guess, the choice as to whether you could alternatively go to work and really use that office instead. But the point is now, if you start to enshrine the right to work at home, as the Victorian government is about to do or is doing, then you've got a fundamental problem, because your place of work actually could then become tax deductible, which, as you make the observation, is going to blow out the budget. So they're going to have to make some changes here pretty quickly, I'd suggest.
Talk to me about BYD. This is the Chinese maker of EV vehicles. It's not selling the cars in Australia yet. They're importing them, then they're putting them out in great big car parks. But that's so that they can pick up lucrative carbon credits under Labor's new vehicle efficiency standards. Now, as I said, they're not sold yet. They're just sitting there, but they're creaming the credits. This looks like a bit of a rort to me.
Well, you're noticing with each of these subjects that we're talking about, there's a little bit of sort of, if you like, looseness in terms of government policy that needs to be tightened in, work from home. And now you see this with BYD. So what it's doing, even though its sales are down, electric vehicle sales in Australia have fallen over the past 12 months, except for BYD, which is bringing them in, claiming the credit and claiming that their sales are going through the roof. The problem is they're not selling the cars. And so they've had to go effectively to a theme park, which is south of Sydney, Jamberoo, and fill up the car park there. Now, at some stage, Jamberoo is going to want its car park back because they're going to open up for the summer as they generally do. They've got water slides and all sorts of bits and pieces. So where do these BYDs go? Now, there's another fundamental problem is that electric vehicle car sales are falling. Hybrids are rising because hybrids are more suitable to more Australians. But the electric vehicles, which have been sort of, as I say, pushed really down people's throats because of the tax subsidies they do gain, really ultimately their resale value is very, very poor. And that's the reason why many Australians are choosing other vehicles in preference to those electric vehicles. Tesla sales have been down, BYD sales have been down. So this is really one of these big turning points in terms of the preferences of Australian motorists in regards to the way in which they drive in the future.
More subsidies yet again, Ross, going offshore. Surprise, surprise. Thank you again.